Well, hi everybody, and welcome again to the SAP Press Book Club. And I'm Kendall Tyler. I'm your host. And today's book of the month is Signavio, which I'm super excited about. As all of you guys know, I'm kind of like, been researching, studying, been gone crazy about Signavio. And I also went to the conference couple weeks ago about Signavio and LeanIX and WalkMe. So I figured, why not interview these guys? They wrote the very first Signavio book. And so I have with me, let's see, let me get these guys going. Who wants to go first? Let's talk with, how about Manuel? Let's talk with you first. Why don't you
Hi
just tell
everyone.
us who you are, where do you work, how long, got you into Signavio?
Hi everyone. My name is Manuel, and I'm part of the SAP Signavio team. So I have a background in SAP consulting. I was working with our customer on S/4HANA transformation projects, early phases of S4 projects, and supporting our customers in those kind of initiatives. And I moved to Signavio 2.5 years ago because I thought, hey, we can really do something and support the S4 transformation projects at our customers and make them become a more value-driven project, a more process-driven project. And now I'm in the role of working with some of our largest clients on making them successful with Signavio, always in the context of S4HANA transformation.
Really?
And
See, to me, that
yes,
sounds so exciting. That would be all. Okay, cool. So let's have our next author. How about you, Johan? You want to try it?
Thanks so much, Manuel. What an intro. I can't top this one. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Johannes, call me Joe. I'm based here in Vienna, Austria, and I had this honor of contributing to this actually second release of the book, right? The first one was German only, but now we made it
Oh, I
international.
didn't know that. Was it
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
No
yeah, right.
wonder I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But anyways, this book is more advanced in terms of the latest innovations around LeanIX and how this comes into game, more advancements in terms of S/4HANA, sub-activate project phase, etc. So I'm working within Westlacher Consulting. I'm responsible for SAP Signavio. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. It's my pleasure. We distributed tons of books, and I'm happy to engage with you for any questions you might have.
Perfect. Now, are we missing? Where did he go? Wasn't he here? So anyway,
Getting Michael back.
I was going to say Michael just disappeared on us. So we have one more author who will be joining us. He disappeared. We'll get him back. So this is the best part is that Johan and I have been on this little, hey, I'm going to really challenge you on this one. Let's find some things that he trip him up because who knows more about Signavio between the three of us. The cool thing is that Signavio is changing so much. And literally, there's new releases, things are happening. And, my biggest thing is that let's start with the very easiest question ever. Ready?
Let's go.
let's go.
What is Signavio? Who wants to answer that one?
I mean, I can take this one.
Okay.
Like you need to ask me personally or in general. For me personally, it's a mindset. And this, I even joked with Ruben Morato. It's one of the key people within SAP Signavio, right? Because Signavio itself, of course, it's a software solution enabling business process transformation. But after all, it's more than a software stack. It's a transformation suite enabling a methodology that comes with it, if you consider the different solutions. And afterwards is a mindset, because afterwards the people working with it, and the ultimate goal is to get everyone thrilled about the solutions as we are. So it becomes a mindset of continuously non-stop transformation of your business processes.
Dude, I think it's a game changer. I think it's a different conversation that you can have with a customer instead of oh, you have to do this by this date, by this date, by this date. This is like, let me show you how you can add value to your business and be able to get IT and the business to start talking. Don't you? I mean, I think that's where the whole Signavio play kind of comes in. And when I talk to people, I'm like, imagine being able to just look inside your system and visually see what's going on. People are like, it's hard to like grasp the whole concept. Are you all finding that that's the biggest issue? That people are just like, I just cannot, what? You know?
I mean, it's also a new way how to do transformation projects, right? So
Yes.
we really can start in the very beginning and analyzing the current state of the system, analyzing bottlenecks, long lead times, manual activities, really defining a goal, what should be part of the transformation and what should be considered during the transformation. And then during next steps, it's about realizing all of this, getting all the people on board, making sure you get the change realized in the system, and make sure that the targets you have set up in the beginning are actually achieved. And also later on, you can really see, okay, measure what's the value of all of this. Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? Can we actually use it going forward? So in all of those different phases, we can support. And yeah, as Joe was saying, it's not only the tool suite, it's a mindset coming with the tool, a methodology, and also content, which can help the actual projects.
Well, look who just showed up. Michael, have you been out in the Swiss Alps or something? Where have you been?
I'm hiking right now. That's why I was out, but I was careful to listen to what Manuel said, and well, good. I'm back.
Well, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you work, what you do in SAP, and how did you get into Signavio?
Okay, I hope I'm not contradicting everything that
No. They went on different journeys, I think.
Okay, so as a matter of fact, today is my birthday. I mean, not my real birthday, my SAP birthday. I'm celebrating 27 years with SAP.
Oh my gosh! Yay!
So it has been a long time, and I started as a developer back in 1996, and then so from that on, basically my journey went on. I'm not telling you everything right now. But what basically happened at the end of 2020, when SAP said we're going to double down on the subject of business process transformation, moving away from letting our customers, let me say, sort of alone with here's the new technology like S4HANA and somehow figure out the way to go there. I went into a team that was at that point of time not even called SAP Signavio because it was prior to the acquisition. And since then, I was working, I think probably like Manuel said, and probably also Johannes, with customers on the ever-growing portfolio, organic and inorganic, supporting transformations. And yes, so that's in a nutshell. And because I have S4 background, enterprise architect background, I was very passionate to use these tools in transformations and yeah, be a co-author of the book.
Perfect. Well, good. So what is your recommendation to get started with SAP Signavio?
What is my recommendation to get started?
Yeah, how would you start?
Well, I would say, I mean, first of all, there's obviously you need to unfold what SAP Signavio is. I think Manuel already alluded to, right? It's not just a process management, but to understand what basically are the solution capabilities from a starting point, and also what are the integration points, because I would say process management plays together with enterprise architect management and application lifecycle management. So they're like a concert. They're giving a concert, let me say it that way. Yeah. And the reason why I would recommend that is also because of my experience that when I talk to customers, I'm seeing these, let me say, units or entities in an organization being very much not connected as much as they should do. And then probably the first thing that I would say, that was really the answer, that was just going to the answer, is that you create a sense of urgency and awareness in your organization for the subject. Because business process management, and I haven't been, let me say, in the process management space for 25 years, I'm honest, right? Mm-hmm. But I see that customers have adopted it quite for some time. But when I'm coming from the SAP point of view,
you do, yes, we don't know it.
Correct.
It's like, what?
Correct.
Business process? No, you do SAP.
And they don't see I think you don't see the value. So you have to sell internally the topic to your stakeholders
that this is not just like a one-time off. It's not like when you do a transformation, do that, but this is an investment in the organization that requires some robustness, let me say, in the organizational setup. And that's the first thing I will do, because you can, buy software, you can buy consulting services, you can buy a lot, can get a lot of like assistance, but at the end of the day, what you can't buy is an organization. That's something you have to create, and that takes time.
Yeah. And, you know, another thing is that, you know, I was talking to the other guys about this, like Signavio, when, you know, people have a hard time grasping that concept of it's a, you know, it's business process transformation. And everybody's like, no, I'm doing a transformation. And it's like, no, you're really not. You're just dragging stuff over that you don't need, or you're not doing it. You know, let's look at what you're doing and figure out where you need to go. And what are the other people doing, you know, kind of thing. And I think it's very hard for people to understand that.
And I think we're raising the bar. I mean, you know, I would say every customer situation is unique. And so every customer journey is unique. But I would say, again, we're also looking back, we are almost celebrating now 9 years S/4HANA being the market. Signavio is more than S/4HANA. And as I said, Signavio is not to be seen standalone, you know, because it's a suite. But nevertheless, the tendency have been, I would say, or dominantly tendency have to be like, I somehow get to a new technology. And that was like the status quo. But now the bar is kind of like racing in the sense of like, hey, there's much more you can do. And that's what I'm seeing right now. So 5 years ago, it was not so normal to look at processes. There were no products around. That was like, hey, you're an unusual guy. You're looking at processes. Today is sort of like flipping around. There's basically no customer who's not looking at the processes, justifying, let me say also honestly, the investment in the transformation.
Oh, yeah. And plus, you know, now with the WalkMe product in there, I think that's kind of cool where, you know, I went to the Chicago conference, and WalkMe had it was like their second day, I think, you know, that they're like, they're all kind of like, you know, and so I'm like, so what's the coolest thing that I could, you know, see right now from WalkMe? And I was like, is it the fact that if I go into ECC or anything, you know, SAP, and drill down and figure out who's doing what wrong, I can name the guy that's doing it wrong? Like, they're like, yeah, you can't do that. I was like, that to me, that's kind of, you know, that's pretty cool to know exactly what's going, you know, happening there in your business, because otherwise you don't know, because you don't know. And plus people leave. You don't have the processes that they were doing. You know, people are retiring. There's a lot of different things that people don't think about as process management. You all find that in SAP land?
100. And this comes back to what I meant at the very beginning, also with a mindset, right? It's a mindset towards a process-driven organization as a North Star, you know, achieving operational excellence. That's also a nice buzzword. But with Signavio, we can actually achieve it by looking on the process layers and also breaking down the silos, right? Because after all, end-to-end processes are touching different LOBs. And now we have a wonderful tool set where we can, just optimize processes. You know, we always talk about agility and fast-moving world and stuff like this. And if we have a look on the best performing companies out there, they are all process-driven.
You know, one thing is that, you know, we talk about core ERP, but what about like other products such as like Ariba, like transfer, EWM, TM? I mean, does it cover all of that as well?
I mean, Signavio overall is a product suite for process management independent of the underlying solution. So we can also in the analysis piece, we can connect to non-SAP systems as well as SAP systems. And also, if I speak to our development teams, it's still around 50% of our efforts are still going into non-SAP use cases to make it even stronger also for non-SAP use cases. So I think that's important to understand. Yes, we use it as a process transformation suite, also significantly for S/4HANA transformations, but Signavio was always and should stay a solution independent process management suite, and that's our target. And For the SAP world, of course, we provide the most content, we provide the most accelerators. So, I mean, if we speak about the out-of-the-box process analysis with our Process Insight solution, yes, we can also connect to Ariba. We can connect to EWM, to Supply Chain Manager, to other solutions, out-of-the-box connectivity. If we look at our mining component, we have templates, accelerators, which we can use to connect to SAP and also non-SAP systems. So we just
like
released an accelerator. Exactly. We just ServiceNow, Salesforce. We provide accelerators for that. Plus, we are working a lot together with our partners, which are providing content and accelerators for non-SAP use cases. But from that perspective, important to understand it's a solution-independent entire business process management suite. And that's where Signavio was coming from before SAP acquired Signavio, and that's what it should stay, and where we are still working on.
Yeah, because I know that we're actually like within SAP, it kind of stops at certain industries, and then we're kind of extending it out for the utility industry, like meter to cash and all that kind of thing. You know, so I know a lot of different partners are doing that for different industries, so you can go further.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, Manuel covered, I think, pretty much everything. What's important to understand, one of the, I mean, also recording what Johannes said, buzzwords is like methodology, content, product, right? It's if you have a product, right, and you don't have content, and accelerators are basically content, bad. If you don't have a methodology, how to apply it, bad, right? You will fail. And when it comes to content, I think it's important when we talk about process management in the SAP space, that we have an enterprise architecture framework with a reference business solution architecture and a reference solution architecture. The business architecture is agnostic, right?
Yeah.
It's aligned with the APQPC framework, yeah? So that is basically what we're also infusing in both into LeanIX and into Signavio. So yes, it goes beyond, obviously, the SAP space, because processes are naturally going at some point outside of the SAP space, maybe smaller, maybe bigger. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the SAP space, one of the, let me say, I think top topics that came across the last 12 months is how can I come closer to standard? What is standard basically? And how do I sort out what do I have on stock and applications? And that's where I just want to say a big investment is going into the documentation description of basically our processes, not the L5 processes, the BPN diagrams, but also on our overall semantic on our end-to-end processes. Our story that has been started a few years ago when we said we want to organize SAP along end-to-end processes, hire to require, procure to pay, lead to cash. Some of you might resonate that. That's all basically content that you can ingest and digest into LeanIX and Signavio.
Yeah, I think I don't know if people understand that, you know, Signavio was a separate company that was purchased by SAP. So they wrote Signavio for everything. I mean, it would run across Oracle. It would run across all different other applications. But then once SAP bought it, they were like, let's start really developing this for SAP. And I think that people kind of miss the mark on what Signavio is sometimes. To me, Signavio is great ERP. I mean, SAP, but not like thinking like journey modeling, or is it a mining tool? Is it they keep thinking it's something like, but what I think is the best thing that Signavio can do is to get customers onto S4 from ECC to S4, showing that transformation. I mean, it was that kind of the big thing that y'all were working on as far as what Signavio thought that's the best value right now.
Yeah, it was when, I mean, what the others would say, but I think it was when we made the acquisition, right? It was basically, we have seen that when we come to cloud transformation overall, transformation is nothing bad, right? Transformation is happening every day to new technology, right? As I said, customers are struggling. And if you look at the landscape of the customer, and if you look, maybe we could count it and measure it by the number of processes, the number of users, the ERP system, and that's why we have a suite first, but cloud ERP central search, the SAP, right, still covers a lot of those processes and will cover a lot of those processes with, as you say, some of the satellites like EWM and TM. So it was naturally, we're saying, hey, we need to do something there, right? And let me say, honestly, in our own interest as SAP, but also in the interest of our customers. Otherwise, they just aging and getting older on the ECC. So yes, it's a big use case, but like Manuel said, we have accelerators across the whole, let me say, stack of like ServiceNow or Salesforce, for example. And therefore, it depends. We also have customers who don't use Signavio, or let me say, start to use Signavio in the non-SAP space, right? Because they have particular use cases. So
right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, you know, I think that for an ECC customer that wants to get to S4, they don't know where to start their journey, or like have been, you know, people have come in, told them 100 different things, what to do, brownfield, greenfield, bluefield, whatever field, you know, and then they're kind of like, how do I justify it, you know, to somebody to do this big project, or how do I get the money to do this big project? How do I get people on board, like the business who is like, I've been doing it forever this way, I don't want to do it again. You know, we've been through a gazillion, you know, doing it, you know, getting everybody on ECC. And then I hear the guys that are like, that's my baby. I did so much configuration in that. I am not giving it up. You know, it's those guys. But then when you show them their system through the eyes of Signavio, I think then everybody sits back and goes, wow, what? I mean, have you all had that with your customers that you deal with?
100. I mean, just talking from my own experience, I'm on the SAP transformation market since 2017, right? So, and I spent 4.5 years doing SAP S/4HANA finance migrations without Signavio, and I remember how much of a mess it was at the time without this tooling, simply because you have Excel sheets, so many that you can't count them. You have the simplification list, you have like pages of documents no one is actually aware of. Now we have a tooling that brings the different LOBs together, the different process owners together, all in one table, provides every LOB with some homework where they can start today in their ECC system, clean up master data, clean up this and this, with low effort, with a medium effort, with a higher effort, prepare actively for the transformation towards S/4HANA. And after all, and this is again a mindset shift, and approaching S/4HANA migration as a business transformation, a business topic, not an IT only topic, right? And Signavio also here enables the business to contribute even more proactively for the S4 migration.
Yep, I agree. Now, I know that, you know, let's talk about, like, if I'm going from ECC to S4, and I've heard about the discovery report, and then everybody's like, well, I've already done, how many different names have they called some of these, you know, hey, I'll run the, you know, they call them all different. I've heard, what are those ones that they run? They're all different ones that you can run and see all the code. And
should we give all names the last time, and then we make like a look at my finger and you forget the names? Okay, can we do like
what? They change it every 5 minutes. Yeah, they're like, oh, I've already done this one. I've done that.
Not quite 5, but too often, too many changes overall, I think, to digest for customers or partners likewise.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree.
But very important to understand here, right? So SAP had means to analyze SAP systems already before SAP purchased Signavio. And some of the reports you were just mentioning, they were kind of monitoring tools and solution manager, and they were monitoring business processes. And that was the origin or the start of Process Insights. And Process Insights is the solution which we now have as part of our Signavio portfolio, really understanding where there are bottlenecks and where there are long lead times, manual activities, and all of this. And I mean, that's how it all started. And well, now we have Signavio as well. SAP purchased Signavio, bringing a lot more capabilities to the table. Now we can also do real process mining projects independent of an ERP system. We can connect to non-SAP systems and make the scope much bigger to connect all of this. But the reports you were just mentioning, that's how it all started. And
Yeah.
yes, they were evolving over time. But the latest offering with regards to this, how to get started, what's a free offering for getting started with Signavio, is what we now call Process Insights Discovery Edition.
I
What
think they
everyone can
changed it
sign up
because
to.
it was something else, something Discovery. Now it's Discovery.
It was Process Discovery, but that was basically all. It's all
Yes.
legacy. That was all what Manuel referred to. Because
Exactly. This is all legacy now. It's Process Insights Discovery Edition. And that's basically a full version of Process Insights, but you can only analyze one process flow. But for this one process flow, you get all kinds of data. So that's a good starting point. If you haven't started with Signavio, that's a free of charge offering just to run this Process Insights Discovery report, and you see where this is all going.
Now there's another one called Plug and Gain. So let's talk about that one. What's up with that? I heard that now you can run it multiple times instead of one time. Have y'all heard that?
Yeah, that's it's just been released with the last release of our product.
It's cool.
I mean, what's Plug and Gain about? We use our predefined analytics solution and bring that into our mining solution. And in the mining solution, you are absolutely free to have some nice reporting capabilities to do conformance checks, to build your own widgets based on the data which is there, to use all the data to map it against your own processes and to really work with it. And what you were just referring to is originally bringing the data into our process mining solution was kind of a manual activity, and it was a one-time load. So we only got a one-time data extract into our one process mining solution. And with our latest release, this can now be automated, meaning we get regular updates on the data, we get timestamps, time slices, and can work with the data that we always see the latest data.
Well, I kept saying, like, if you do it the first time and you're ECC and you run that report and then you fix everything, I was like, I want to run it again to see what happened, what it looks like, what's the difference. Everybody's like, can't do that. I was like, so now you can. So that is exciting.
Maybe it's worth to add, because I'm not sure if the audience have seen and Process Insights. I mean, Process Insights and also the whole suite is a cloud solution, right? You don't install obviously anything as hardware. And by the way, fun fact, Process Insights is 3 years old, more than 3 years. It just 3 years and 1 month, right? We're talking about birthdays and anniversaries. So that's in terms of IT, it's already like a mature product, an old product, I always want to say, right? And every month we add new, let me say, content. It gets automatically edited, new analysis capabilities, new processes, new recommendations. But because it's cloud, I mean, you imagine like you take your iPhone, you don't change to, I don't know, start to change the WhatsApp or the Teams app on your iPhone. All of a sudden, it's cloud, right? You get what you get your data. Now, on the other side, when we have the plug and gain approach, which is not a product, we go to the mining, and as Manuel said, we can change metrics, right? If you do a value calculation, for example, you do a specific country, customer-specific calculation in there. So it's the beauty of like permanently getting the latest content, like every month, new release, new content, new flows of your system, and then loading it to a mining solution where you can do, let me say, whatever you want and enrich it and go beyond that, let me say, defined process scope.
Okay, so it is 10:30 my time, so that means it's time for Q&A. So let's see what the audience here is asking, wondering what okay, so we have here is our first question. What are the key success factors when introducing Signavio in an organization?
I can take this one. I mean, we at Westernacher Consulting, we have a strong emphasis on the people aspect. And I would say people is the first one. Like Michael already said, okay, it's about the buy-in internally, right? Signavio on the one hand is a software solution, but it's more than a software solution, right? It's the approach, it's the whole business process transformation suite. So to get the people in this, again, mindset is already a key to success. because you can have the best solution in place, but if the people are ultimately not adopting it, this also goes in the direction of change management, really emphasizing on the usage, on the value adds, on the benefits, then you already won. Signavio is just not another tool. It's, you know, it's here to help, it's here to support, it's here to be more efficient after all.
Definitely. Okay. Oh, I got one just for you, matter of fact. You ready? We have a very diverse IT ecosystem, also with plenty of non-SAP systems, such as ServiceNow or Salesforce. Is it even possible to analyze processes from such source systems, or is it restricted to SAP environments only? Is this something that your upcoming course? Oh, yes, John forgot you have a course coming up here with SAP Press. If y'all want some training.
Yeah, this is something we are about to cover. Yeah, indeed. And I think this question highly relates to the process mining solution. So SAP Signavio Process Intelligence. In short, you can mine anything that has, you know, a log file with a certain event and a timestamp, no matter the system. I think there are even cases where they analyze something like a computer game out of the metaverse. I don't know if you saw this, Manuel or Michael. You know, you just need the timestamp and then event log. Then you can actually adapt the transformation script and then analyze it. However, coming back to the business environment, of course, and that's normal to have plenty of different applications, right? Especially when we are talking Linux, you know, the whole enterprise architecture management. First of all, it depends. Okay, analyzing the data flow coming from different systems, right? It might be that 80% comes from SAP ERP, 10% from Salesforce, and 5% from any other, right? So that we have the quick wins with the biggest source system already set up, and then add the other source system and adapt the transformation script accordingly. So always make the quick wins with the solution, the source system solution with the most data, and then add the other ones on demand. But this is all with process intelligence.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think as long as you get the core ERP system, SAP, looking at that one first, then grab all the data from everybody else, you know, I think that then you can find out where everything's going. But it does run on, I mean, you can anywhere. So, okay, so I have a question for you guys. So I have a customer who wants to pull in their Visio diagrams, and they're like, how do I do that? So they want Visio, they're using Visio diagrams. They want to pull it into Signavio. And I think there is a way that it's on the list of coming up like in end of the year things, but there's some workaround. Have you guys experienced that yet?
Maybe the other colleagues know. I don't know whether we've used workarounds, but I've seen that we have done that. I mean, because that's, I mean, just broadening the question, a typical scenario. I mean, no one walks into the door of a customer and finds a accurate, up-to-date, end-to-end process documentation. I mean, that's, I mean, at least in my past, let me say 4 years, I have not seen. Usually you have fragments of something somewhere, right? And yes, we're working on AI-based technology, let me say it this way, right? Where we basically can create process models out of completely unstructured data. Maybe that was what's more on the roadmap side. But on Visio, practically, I've seen our services colleagues transforming Visio into Signavio process models.
I think
I mean, to add on that, right? So we already have an import functionality to import Visio diagrams into Signavio. This is only available based on specific requests. So it's not activated in a customer workspace by standard. But if you open a ticket in SAP for Me, then you can activate this feature to import Visio diagrams into your own workspace. The challenge we offer, that's already available.
There you go.
Well, sometimes there's some rework necessary, or customers are using Visio in a way that it's not really BPMN compliant and really hard to import. And in such cases, yes, we have workarounds that we write custom scripts, Python scripts to transform the data and to import it via an API. So it's really not a big thing to do such scripting if large amounts of diagrams from Visio need to be imported. That's the workaround, but well, the standard feature already works quite well. It just needs to be requested individually to get it activated.
What about like really old versions of SAP? I know you guys started like 6.0 up, but what if they're on like 4.0 or?
Beyond maintenance, you mean?
Yeah, really like out of maintenance, or what if they're like with like that street company where they're really old? Have y'all had anybody want to, I mean, I've talked to customers that are dormant customers and they're just like, we're off maintenance and
yeah, I mean, from a practical point of view, I mean, never say never, never rule something out. But if a system is at that stage, as you said, like, I mean, so old, right? I mean, and if you think about now, think it through the lens of transformation, right? Then you would not even have a direct path to S4, right? Because you would need to do intermediate upgrades to ECC, because and then it becomes for me very questionable. But I mean, it's typically, I mean, it's not a nice situation, I would say, because obviously the system is, as I said, beyond maintenance, and that's not only the application layer, but also probably the database and everything else. But on the other side, the situation is very clear. I mean, there basically, it's not a renovation that has to be taken place. If you think about a house, right, and house decoration, but you have to basically build a new house. So I don't see the customer spend a lot of time. I mean, the older the system gets, right, the more complicated I would say it gets to do the analysis, right? And in this situation, I think it's better to start fresh.
Yeah, those are like old, like, you know, industry specific versions that could never get upgraded because they over configured the whole thing so bad that, you know, they just stuck back there kind of thing. But they just kept them.
Yeah.
I see. What about multiple? What if they have multiple SAP systems on different versions?
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, if you think of through Process Insights, I mean, that was the other answer, I think, probably Manuel, also it is lips, right? I mean, we can also use a solution manager as an intermediate system to connect older systems, but we can connect in Process Insights multiple ERP systems. So that's, again, not unusual. Again, through the lens of a transformation, customers might have a regional ERP set up historically. That's what I've seen many, many times, like 3-4 ERP systems per region, Asia Pacific, Americas, Europe, and something else. And then when you had a moment of transformation, one of the key design questions is the instance strategy. So how many systems do I go forward? What's my deployment model? Is it in SAP terminology rise or grow? Or is it like a two-tier approach between private and public cloud? Yep. And then the question comes, I need to compare the systems to each other, right? I need to understand what is the configuration of these systems if I make my target state, and which is more typically a single instance, single client. So yes. In short, that's a clear use case actually that brings such tools that we discussed today absolutely on the mandatory list, I would say, because you harmonize processes across very different systems and with very different cultures, I would say. And if you want to do something like that, you need insights into the current usage.
Okay, here's another question for you guys. How can you optimize the processes using Signavio if different applications are being used to run a single process? Whoa.
Well, first of all, we need to understand process execution, right? You understand, you said different applications are used. So we need to understand where are the bottlenecks, what can we improve, what does it actually mean? Signavio helps you to identify standard possibilities to optimize the process. So what's out there, what kind of S/4HANA capabilities might be there, which can be used? What kind of automation scenarios are there, which can be used? Is there anything running on our business technology platform, for example, which can be used? So we need to understand what we want to improve. We can understand, Signavio points you into direction what's there to actually improve it. And well, then it's about realizing all of this. And that's, again, where we are then working closely together with our business technology platform, where you can build low-code, no-code bots and stuff like that to really improve the process. So that's the overall picture.
Perfect. So how do you use SAP Signavio in SAP transformation programs? So let's say moving from multiple ECC to a single S/4HANA. Which components of Signavio can be used in different phases on the journey, starting with discovery? As an enterprise architect, how can you justify using Signavio throughout the journey?
Well, we have mapped out how Signavio can support across the different phases of SAP Activate. So SAP Activate is the SAP framework how to run S/4HANA transformation projects with 6 different phases. And we have mapped out in detail how Signavio can support in all of those different phases. So on the one hand, we have some slideware around that, but maybe even more important for those of you who have a Signavio tenant, we have a so-called SAP Activate Accelerator available via our Value Accelerator library. So every customer can import this framework, how Signavio supports an S/4HANA transformation across the different phases of SAP Activate. And there we describe level 1, level 2, level 3 activity, what needs to be done in a certain phase, and also how does Signavio support exactly in this certain phase, and also which component of Signavio supports in a certain phase. So the entire suite supports in the different phases, and via the SAP Activate Accelerator, you even find hands-on guidance on how to use the tool. We have click-through demonstrations on the lowest level, and that's free to use for everyone. It can just be imported via the Value Accelerator library to get this kind of content, including all the click-through demonstrations, really demonstrating how to use Signavio hands-on in the different phases.
Okay.
Try to take a screenshot, but the chat doesn't allow JPEGs. So well, make your way to have with your point of contact for SAP Signavio, and then you import this accelerator, and then it's really a self-service kind of thing. I mean, not that we don't want to talk to you, right? For sure we want to talk. It's always good, but basically it's meant built up in a way as Maya described, that you're going to go straight to the activate phases, see the capabilities, and then see on the side panel a pre-recording. So I think you don't have to be an expert to use that, but you will probably be very knowledgeable about exactly that question that have been raised.
Oh, yeah. So the next question is there a series of steps that we need to follow if we want to start an S/4HANA transformation? Step 1. Step 2. Step 3. Follow these 2.
Write us an email.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, I mean, Manuel just explained a little bit. We build this accelerator, and we've built it for 2 versions, new implementation or conversion. So, I mean, and then even within a new implementation, the conversation with customers is different in the situation, right? I wouldn't say there is an absolutely, how to say, these are the 10 steps, and you follow from 1 to 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my personal opinion, and there was a question at the beginning that I quite liked, is make yourself familiar with what the capabilities are, exactly like questions that we're going to get. I mean, you need to play basically the instrument. You need to be confident about what can I do, where are limits, or where things start to be getting more complicated. For example, there's no standard content, right? And then there's also the organizational buy-in that we covered, I think, 2 times on those questions, right? So I need to understand how much can I basically do within the transformation, because the transformation usually has boundaries like resources, timelines, and so forth on.
Yeah.
I need to make my own, let me say, plan, right, based on the templates that we have, and answer these questions, right? I mean, how far do I want to go when it comes, for example, to process diagrams and so forth on? How deep do I want to go? What is the right level? What is the integration? What content can I use, right? That at the end of the day, I think is I would call it the success criteria. You need to personalize this, right? Because your situation is different than the situation of another client, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, you don't have to use Signavio just for ECC to S4. You can expand S4 as well, which I think is kind of cool. So all those guys that did brownfield and dragged everything over, now it's your ability to actually, look at what you did in S4 and expand what you're doing or fix. So the conversation's two-sided on here. It's like, yeah, you can do the S4 transformation, but you could also use, for continuous improvement on S4, which is. So the next question is, y'all will love this one. Does Signavio come with an S4 license, or is it a separate license? Is it volume or user-based? And how does Signavio prepare people on the ground and consultants to be comfortable?
Well, first of
By
all,
the way, everybody, it's not in RISE anymore, just to let you know. That's number one.
Signavio is a product suite of different products. Well, in our book, we are explaining this in part 2 quite in detail. What are the different components of Signavio? And they are licensed differently. Some are user-based licensed. Some are based on number of records in the system. Some are based on data volume, which is stored in the solution. So an individual scoping is required for all of this.
Don't you think that, here's my thing. People that just buy Process Insights and do not buy the entire Signavio suite and then turn around and go, I don't like it. It's not working. I'm kind of like, well, it's like a car. You just bought the tires. You didn't buy the whole car. I mean, don't you think that that's where people are missing out on the licensing?
I mean, the full value you get if you use the different components in combination, right? Because then it really makes sense and it can support all the different steps. And that's why we typically see the biggest use case here. And
these guys are not licensed sales guys, by the way, just to let you know. So they like it, they buy everything and they know what's going to, but there are sales guys that just want to buy sell one thing because that's all they can get out of the customer. So they'll, just say Process Insights, you do that, but I think that they should be buying the entire Signavio suite.
Yeah, I said it a little bit mildly. Let me maybe say a little bit clearer. I mean, I said you need to understand what the components do. You need to apply them on your situation. And then you need to think, what is your plan for transformation, right? I mean, in terms of what is my growth rate? I'm doing a transformation in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years. Do I do a template, an incremental template, and all these things, right? I mean, that is something that you understand. And then you make a decision. I mean, my belief is, right, with the customers I've seen, you one time present the case and you're saying, hey, this is my transformation case. And these are my incremental steps to a target architecture, starting maybe with, replacing some old enterprise portal that's still hanging around with a work zone or doing other things. It's not always starting with the biggest chunk, which is S4. But then you one time go to your, board, right? And saying, hey, that's the plan. And that's where we are. And then you justify. I think what never goes down very well and is if you come around every half year and saying, hey, I missed something here. I forgot about, I didn't forget about the application lifecycle management. In the testing, I forgot. Sorry. I mean, that I don't think goes down very, very, creates hiccups. That's why I'm saying not every situation requires all products at day number 1, because again, you need to be specific or specific to the customer situation, but you need to have a plan. Not to have a plan and not to put the plan into steps is not a wise idea. And
what do you guys think about them taking Signavio out of RISE and putting in DataSphere?
Well, we are connected via DataSphere to legacy systems or ServiceNow or Salesforce, right? So that's part of our. But if you think about architecture, right, how the architecture works, we basically leverage DataSphere as a pull-through mechanism to get data from non-SAP systems, right? So that's part of the product strategy.
Okay, Johannes, you have a question for you. Ready?
Let's go.
So in the upcoming course, will you be covering the integration to LeanIX? Will you be covering the alignment and management of user stories through implementation projects?
I mean, the course itself is very open-end in terms of use cases. So this is a great example of what will be included, of course, but I also calculated plenty of time for some Q&A. Right, so make it as interactive as possible. So what you can expect is the fundamentals, everything that we talked now in 1 hour, right? You have it more in depth. You have also everything you read in the book more in depth, and you see it hands-on in the system. And you have plenty of time in engaging, you know, like no matter your current state, what your plan is, right? If you're planning your S/4HANA migration, if you're planning connecting it with LeanIX, populating fact sheets or the dictionary, whatever, or if you operate Signavio as a standalone, you know, for process excellence initiative. So there are plenty of use cases, and yes, this is one of them.
Yeah, I think every customer's use case seems to be different, but there's so many that are similar. And I like to think of it as like Signavio is the thinking outside the box. And it's a tool that you know, you think like, gosh, I wish I could do. And then you're like, Signavio could do that. You know, I literally hear people go, boy, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, have you heard about Signavio? You know, I start going down this Signavio conversation with everybody because I'm like, that was not that problem. Have you talked about that? I think it's amazing how many different things that you can think of to use Signavio for in all different types of, you know, customers' use cases kind of thing. Is there
you know what is
yeah,
sorry, you know what is a fun fact as you are asking for LeanIX? We were writing this book when LeanIX was not part of SAP yet. And so as you might remember, see in the book, there's already a chapter on how Signavio integrates with the LeanIX and how that all works. And so I'm just saying this because Signavio was already tightly integrated with LeanIX and working very closely together with LeanIX already before LeanIX was part of SAP. So yes, the Lean acquisition was a logical next step for SAP, and but the integration is working quite well. And the idea of combining business process management with enterprise architecture management was already there a long time before LeanIX was part of SAP.
I have a better
now
fun
it
fact.
is.
I have a better fun fact for you. So if anybody has ever met a LeanIX AE, they're 6'5". I don't know what it is. They are ginormous. I'm like, is that ever hiring? Everybody I've met is so huge. I'm like, I'm 5'2", and all these like ginormous, they're all LeanIX. It's kind of like, where are the LeanIX guys? Oh, there they are. They're ginormous guys. It's really funny. But must have been a hiring thing. I don't know. But the super nice guys, the LeanIX, to have them part of the SAP team.
Yeah, and we are all meeting next week in Frankfurt, right? In case you're in Europe, you've been to the Chicago event, right, Kendall? So next week will be the same in Frankfurt. So
see if they're all easy 6'3", 6'4", all of them. See if it's the same thing there, but all the US guys were really tall. So people would like to know, is there an accelerator available for an actual S/4HANA transformation project tracking solution? Plug and game with the PA license.
What do you mean for tracking, right? There's the SAP Activate Accelerator available describing how Signavio supports an S/4HANA transformation. You wouldn't do a project tracking in Signavio. That's not the solution for tracking projects and for doing project management. You can set up projects in Cloud Application Lifecycle Management where we integrate to. You can set up architecture initiatives in LeanIX, but Signavio wouldn't be the solution for tracking project progress, to make that very clear.
So that would still be Activate, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, or two-wise Cloud ALM, for example. But when I hear tracking, I think about value tracking. I mean, you can track also the progress by the value that you achieve, right? And I think Manu had it on the last sort of like sentence or what we want to say. So a part of a transformation program should be that the value that identified that you want to realize that you're going to track when you achieve it, and that's obviously part of it, right? Because the way you measure before the transformation is exactly how you measure after the transformation. It's again something you need to set up in your organization, right?
Yeah.
We'll not come around and saying, hey, have you looked at this KPI again and see the way it's been improved, right? That is something you need to put into your organization's brain cells that's happening, right?
Okay, here's the best question. This is perfect for like the last one because this is, oh my gosh. I'm laughing because I'm like, did I write this? I did not write this. Can you discuss the Signavio free trial? Does it need to be installed on a customer's system, or is the free trial hosted on an SAP provided system? They're talking about discovery. And
I mean, Signavio is always the cloud solution. That's maybe important to understand. So either independent whether you use the free trial or you have the full version, it's always a public cloud solution. So you as a customer never need to take care of the underlying infrastructure. And there's a free trial where you can use our process management solution and do process modeling, to set up a process governance workflow, test out the collaboration. So that's for the process management, process modeling piece where we have a free
But that's
trial.
not using your own data.
No.
No.
The
So
other thing
using
we
your own
have,
data is discovery. Yeah, so I get that.
That's the Process Insights Discovery report we were discussing earlier.
Yep.
That's using your own data. But how does that work technically? You extract the data from your system manually via a custom report in your system, and you just upload the extract files into the SAP service portal, and we generate the solution out of it. So the only thing you need is an administrator who can run the relevant reports, extract the data from your ERP system, and we upload it into our service portal, and you get it provided via that one.
Now, I will say that there is another way of doing this, and it's a partner who has a PA license. And so there are certain partners that have this. And what they're able to do is allow you to use their license of Signavio. And what is done is that it's connected to the old ECC systems. And then we can run plug and gain on top of that, and then be able to actually see everything that's going on in your ECC system. But that's not every partner can do that. So you have to find the partners that have that ability, where you don't have to actually purchase Signavio. So that's the other thing.
Very good point. Very good point. Would have been also a very, very good answer to some of the other questions, how to get started. Because sometimes you need to show things with the real data. And yes, we can do this in process discovery, but typically customers in S/4HANA transformation have a partner who supports them. And that exactly is the model, right? That you can do some sort of assessment on the greenfield, brownfield options that looks at the existing systems. But at that moment, you don't know what is your project going on, when it will start. So you don't buy a license. It's like a chicken egg situation. And that's why we basically have this model where selected partner who opted for that basically can use it and the customer can see it with their own data. And then upon going into the next project phase, let me say it this way, it basically gets shifted, what has been set up, to the customer. And yeah, they start continuing using it without disruption.
Exactly. Yeah, then they just take over that license and they can continue on. Yeah, so that is another option. I know that, I mean, my company does that. So, and there are other ones that do that as well. You just have to like reach out to those system integrators that are set up to do that. So that is the other option. And it is on time. I just wanted to let every conversation. And don't forget that there's two things that everybody has to do. First of all, sign up for a class with Johannes. How do you say your name? It's Johannes?
It's Joe.
Johannes?
No, actually, it's Johannes. And since it's not suitable for an international context, it's Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, can you say it Southern? Like Johannes. Johannes.
That's good. That's
doing
good.
way better. I know. And so he is actually teaching classes on Signavio, which is great. It's a 3-day course. So everybody, please sign up for that on SAP Press. And then the other thing is that since everybody's here and everybody's great, you can get 15% off on their book by using the Book Club 15 code when you check out. You can get 15% off of the SAP Signavio book, and I asked them why they had antelopes, and that is because that is the Signavio animal, which I thought it was funny. So anyway, you can get 15% off their book. It's a great book. It's the first one in English. How they get the German one, but first I don't even know if they're doing that one. Everybody would like this one anyway. So 15% off on the SAP Signavio book and sign up for classes. And it was great talking to you guys, and keep in touch. And I just want to let you know that you guys were the first one that my puppy debuted in. So she's, we'll see the next pictures of how big she gets, but you guys got the little bit. So cute.
Thanks so much for having us. And thanks
course.
everyone in the audience listening to us. And thanks for the question. And see you soon at the workshops. And thanks next week in Frankfurt.
And if you all have any questions, feel free to contact any of us. And like he said, he'll be seeing you in Frankfurt. So thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye. Bye.